Good morning, everybody. We're live from the birdhouse. It is Tuesday, July 20th. And today we are talking about how to keep your feeders clean, your bird baths clean. There's been articles all over the place about this disease. They're not sure if it's a disease, fungus, what it could be that is affecting birds and causing some bird mortalities, especially down in the mid-Atlantic region. And so far, thankfully, it hasn't spread to New York. So we're thankful for that. But it can't hurt to be vigilant. So we want to give you some tips on how you can keep your bird baths clean, your feeders clean. So we'll give you some tips about that. And always, we love to know what kind of things you are seeing. We'll be sharing some of your photos that you guys have sent in afterwards. So we'll be sharing those. But we'd love to know what kind of things you're seeing. So put those in the comments. If you have any questions, put those in the comments as well. And we will get started. So there's been lots of articles like this. Everybody is on high alert about a bird disease that's causing some mortality in birds, especially it seems to be affecting nestlings that are blue jays, grackles, starlings, and robins seem to be the birds most affected. And it can cause some swelling and crusting on the eyes. The birds are getting kind of like dizzy, like they're walking around in circles, confused. So there's a lot of people working on trying to figure out what the cause is, but for the moment, nobody really knows. And for the moment, it hasn't spread to New York, thankfully, but there's things that you can do to protect your birds. And the best thing that you can do is keep your feeders clean, keep your bird baths clean. If you see any signs of what might be a sick bird, absolutely, you want to report it to the DEC. But keeping those feeders clean is the best thing you can do, because these things can spread when there's a big group of birds together, and birds will be grouping at feeders, they group at bird baths. So that is where these animals congregate. So keeping those spaces clean is really, really important. And to keep your feeders clean, the best thing you can do is if you take some hot water, put some dish soap in there. Dawn dish soap works great, and just soak that feeder. So if you can take it apart, that is the best thing you can do. There's a lot of feeders now that have bases that pop right off. So if you've got a feeder with a base that pops out, that's perfect. They're easier to clean. You can soak this in that water. If you can take it all apart, that's going to be the absolute best way. So depending on the type of feeder, they all kind of come apart in different ways. This is a mixed seed feeder. And if you look in the feeding ports, there's usually going to be some kind of screw in there which will hold these feeding ports together. If you just unscrew those, that will cause the feeding ports to come out, and that will help you clean it even better. So if you can soak all the pieces and parts, use a bottle brush to scrub that feeder, and then you can dip it in a bleach solution, and the recipe, if you will, for the bleach solution is going to be 1 part bleach to 9 or 10 parts water. So you can dip it in that bleach solution, let it sit for a little bit, rinse it off really well, make sure it dries completely, and then you can put your feeder back together, fill it with seed, and you are good to go. So a lot of feeders now do have these bases that pop off. Sometimes they come off in different ways. Sometimes they unscrew. So if you look at your feeder, it might give you a better idea. You can completely take it apart. And if you have any questions, you can always bring it in for us to take a look at, or for us to clean. We do offer a cleaning service. That being said, we don't have somebody here all the time who can clean, but if you can drop your feeders off, we will make sure that we clean them for you and then give them back. So there's different types of feeders, like the seed feeder I just showed you, and then there's Niger feeders as well. And the Niger feeders have the really small feeding ports here. So one good way that you can clean the Niger feeders is if you have those little tiny brushes for the hummingbird feeders, the hummingbird ports, you can use those a lot of the time to get into these little ports of your Niger feeder too. So little tiny brushes or even pipe cleaners are great. If you have a feeder that's a little bit more complex, like say the Squirrel Buster, this is one of our best-selling feeders here, it can be a little bit more complicated to take them apart. One of the best things you can do is look on YouTube. A lot of the times YouTube, there's a video for just about everything, and you can learn how to take these feeders apart. and most importantly, how to put them back together correctly. And they're not super difficult once you do that. If you've got this one in particular, which is the Squirrel Buster Classic, which I think a lot of you guys do, the key is to unscrew this nut here at the bottom, but you don't want to lose it because that is what makes the feeder work and operate. Without that, you're not going to have that springing mechanism work anymore on your feeder. So the company that makes the Squirrel Busters, they've got a really great website that'll show you how to clean them and take them all apart. So that's an option as well. So some of these squirrel proof ones can be a little bit more tricky to take apart, but the key is when you're taking it apart to try to remember how you took it apart and what piece goes where so you can easily put it back together again. So there are some tools that you can use to clean your feeders. Having a bottle brush is really important. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but a brush like this that's long that'll get into the tube feeders are great. This will really scrub the inside of that tube feeder. If you have a really long tube feeder, like I've got that really long Drill Yankee Niger feeder, it's about 3 feet tall. We do have these really long brushes too. So this is a super, super long brush that you can use if you do have a really long tube feeder. So we do have different size brushes. A lot of the times you can find these kind of things at hardware stores too. They don't have to be anything super fancy. So anything like that is great to scrub the inside of your feeder. If you're cleaning your bird bath, we do have bird bath brushes. Again, they're just a stiff bristled brush. Anything you can use to scrub that bird bath is great. If you have a magic eraser, magic erasers are great not only for cleaning the bird baths, but if they get kind of some residue on them, that magic eraser will take off any kind of residue like that as well. Just be careful not to overdo it because you don't want it to remove any of the paint that might be on your bird bath. But having a nice brush that can really scrub the bird bath is important too. And if you are cleaning your bird bath, if you're keeping your bird bath out, make sure to refill it every morning if you can. So there's always fresh water in it. You can add something called bird bath protector to it, and this does help break down some of the gunk that can gather in bird baths. This is all natural enzymes which are in here, and it's made specifically for bird baths. So you add just a little capful to the water and that will help break down any kind of gunk. If you are using this, I still do recommend though, especially with everything going on, that you do refill your bird bath every day if possible. Rinse it out, give it a little scrub, a wipe down, clean it out a little bit and refill it if possible, just out of a precautionary measure. And a couple other things, these are those little brushes I was talking about. They're important for cleaning the feeding ports of the hummingbird feeder, but you can also use these to clean those little ports of the Niger feeder. So they're multi-use little brushes. And if you've got seed gathering underneath your feeder or shells gathering under your feeder, you want to make sure that you rake those up. That could be another place where birds congregate. And you don't want them to congregate around a bunch of old seed and old shells. So you can rake up a bunch of that. And another thing you can always do is add what's called the seed and hull digester. Again, all natural enzymes. And this you hook up to your hose and you just spray it underneath the feeder, and it helps break down the shells and seeds quicker. So just something to kind of help you keep your feeding station clean. And just like there are there's a little enzymes you can add to your bird bath, there's also some things you can add to your food or your nectar to keep it fresh longer as well. There is the hummingbird feeder fresh that you add a little bit of this to your nectar and it'll keep the nectar fresh longer. So far, I haven't seen any reports of hummingbirds being affected by this disease. So they should be doing okay at your feeder. You should be able to just kind of keep your same routine going with your feeder, but keep the nectar fresh. This will help keep it fresh a little bit longer as well. And there's also something called feeder fresh that you can add to your seed feeders. And people add this a lot of the times over the winter, or if it's been really rainy, to their Niger feeders, especially. If water gets into that feeder, the seed can get moldy And if you add some of this, it will just help absorb some of that moisture so you don't get the mold in your feeder. So this is called Feeder Fresh. These are little, it's kind of hard to see, but it's like little granules that you can put in your feeder. And again, it's all natural. It's made specifically for bird feeders. So those are some of the things that you can do to keep your feeders clean, that seed fresh, and you just want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to keep your feeding area clean, especially with this news going around. So far, as of this morning, there haven't been any reports in New York, and this has been in Pennsylvania for quite a while. Not in every county in Pennsylvania, but it is in Pennsylvania, but it hasn't spread to New York yet. So we're really thankful for that. But if anything changes, we will absolutely let you know on our Saturday broadcast. We'll give another update to see where we are, to see if we're in the same spot or if anything has changed. So if you guys have any questions about that, just put those in the comments, or you can always give us a call here at the store. So that is that about the mysterious bird illness. So hopefully they figure out what's causing it soon. So in other news here, in other bird news, last week we didn't have a broadcast on Tuesday because I was out of town, and I spent the week in Virginia, around Fredericksburg, Virginia. And what was really fun is I got to see all kinds of different birds and wildlife that I haven't seen here before. So a lot of the pictures I'm about to show you are from a wildlife refuge I went to a couple times, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's the Occoquan Bay National Wildlife Refuge, and you can see it's kind of on the bay here. So there are some marsh-like birds, some brackish kind of water animals that like a mix of freshwater and saltwater. And this is just a little bit south of DC, just to kind of give you an area of where some of these guys were. So I got to see not only some new birds, but some other wildlife that I'd never seen before. So this little guy was walking on the trail right around the water. And this is a southeastern mud turtle, which I had never seen before. So that was a new animal for me. There were lots of water birds, and I actually snapped this photo with my cell phone. This green heron here was really, really close to the trail, and as soon as it saw me, it just froze and tried to pretend like it wasn't there, but it was so close. I was able to snap a picture of it with my cell phone, which was pretty cool. There were lots of mimics down there, lots of mimicking birds, tons of mockingbirds everywhere. Just about every parking lot that you went to, there were mockingbirds on all the signs, the parking signs. And I saw quite a few brown thrasher too. So this is a brown thrasher. They're in that same mimic family as the mockingbird. They're going to be brownish in color. They've got streaking on their breast, and they have a really kind of a large decurved, what's called a decurved bill. It curves down a little bit. So there were quite a few of these brown thrasher there too. I saw several of those while I was down there. And then here is a little chipping sparrow that was sitting on the on a little fence here, just singing its heart out. Here's a video. So the chipping sparrow is out and about and super chatty. Of course, we have chipping sparrow here as well, so you can probably hear them if you're out hiking. One of the new birds that I had seen, which I've never seen before, this is called a least tern, and they were nesting on a beach in the area. So the beach was all blocked off. It had tape all around it, so you couldn't get into the beach where these birds were nesting. There were a whole bunch of them, and if you look closely, you can see that this little guy is even banded. He's got some bands on his legs. So that was a new one for me there. We don't have, every once in a while, there'll be a least tern that flows into the area. We mostly have Caspian terns and common terns, but this least tern you can find more around the coastline. And then I also saw this one, which was a lot larger. This is called a royal tern, which was a new bird for me as well, which was pretty exciting. Of course, there's great blue heron. There's a great blue heron in the mix. This is a different type of gull. This is called a laughing gull, and you'll find those a little bit further south. We don't really have them here so much, but if you go further down south, you'll find the laughing gull. and killdeer. There were killdeer along the beach. And then this was another new bird that I got. And actually, I took this picture. I'm very proud of myself because if you've seen my photos before, they're not very good at all. So this was a blue grosbeak. So it kind of looks like our indigo bunting that we have here, but it's darker blue. It's got some orange on its wings, and it's got that big beak. So it's in that same family as the cardinal and the evening grosbeak. So it's got that really wide bill. So this was exciting that I got to see this bird. We don't have them here in Rochester, but they are going to be more of a southern bird. Actually, I think there was one around last summer, just one that made an appearance, but in general, they're going to be more of a southern bird. But lots of eagles. Here's a juvenile bald eagle that was flying overhead. And lots of ospreys. So osprey nests all over the place. And here's an osprey sitting on one of its nests. And I also snapped this picture with my cell phone of a turkey vulture that was just sitting on the path as I was walking by. So you can see it's kind of small, but that was the turkey vulture just hanging out there. And came across a red-headed woodpecker. We talk a lot about different woodpeckers, and we do have red-headed woodpecker here in our area, but they're not very common. So it was really exciting to see this red-headed woodpecker. And then there were a bunch of insects. So this red admiral butterfly, there were lots of red admirals on the path. This is another another butterfly we do have in our area, the red admiral. This is called a red spotted purple. It almost looks like a swallowtail, like a black swallowtail, or a spicebush swallowtail, really. But it doesn't have those little projections on its tail. And we do have these here in our area as well. So this is called a red spotted purple. And this was really, really cool. So going down the path, came across what's called a button bush, and it's a native plant. And it was just covered with swallowtail butterflies. I've never seen anything like it. I counted at least 20 tiger swallowtail butterflies on this. And what I really liked about it is because when we talk about tiger swallowtail butterflies, usually they're the bright yellow with the stripes, but the females can also have a black morph. And that's what this is right here. So these are all tiger swallowtail butterflies, but when you got close to the black ones, you could actually still see the striping on it, which I thought was really cool, because I thought, how do you really tell the difference between a black swallowtail and a tiger swallowtail in the black morph? It can be really, really hard. But when I got close to it, you could absolutely see the striping on its wings. So there were so many all on this. They love this button bush. And here's another one. It's kind of hard to see the striping on its wings here. And here they all are enjoying the nectar. So this was a really cool sight. So lots of tiger swallowtails. And then finally, this was another new species for me, which I've never seen. This is called the zebra swallowtail. So it kind of looks like the typical tiger swallowtail we have here, but it has these really long projections on its wings. Its swallowed tail is really, really long, and it has more red on it as well. So that was another new species for me, which was really exciting to see. And when I was walking along the trail, I came across these guys, and we have them in the area. Last Saturday, we were talking about the monarch butterfly and how to attract the monarch with milkweed. Well, if you put out milkweed, you might also get this little critter. This is called a milkweed tussock moth, and they will feed on the milkweed plant as well. And these guys were feeding on the common milkweed. And normally, for most butterflies, you're just going to find one caterpillar at a time on a certain plant, but is different. So they will all congregate together in a plant. And now if you were to tap that plant or disturb them, they tend to kind of tumble and fall off. But I came across a whole bunch of these guys all on one plant, which was kind of cool. And one way you can tell if there's caterpillars around is to look for their droppings. So there were a whole bunch of droppings all over these milkweed plants, and that cued me that there was something around in the area. And sure enough, it was just covered up above with the milkweed tussock moths. So the caterpillars, as they're eating and eating and eating, it also comes out the other end. So you can look for this on plants, and there is a fancy name for caterpillar poop called frass. So if you want to impress your friends, you can bust that word out. So look for that when you're out hiking, and that's a really good way to tell that there are some caterpillars in the area. And then finally, I came across this critter in the woods. You might not be able to see it very well because it's super camouflaged. I don't know if I've ever seen something so well camouflaged. This is a moth right here. You can see some of its legs. Like here's one of its legs. Here's its other leg here and another here. And its body, it's kind of triangular. And I would have never have seen it unless I saw it flying around and then just attached to the side of this tree. So using an insect identification app, it told me it's called an Ilia underwing moth. And so that's what I'm going with. I'm not quite sure, but I thought that was just so cool. The camouflage on this was just incredible. So those were some of the sightings I had over the past week, which was really fun, some different stuff. And then you guys have sent in some photos as well of birds and other critters that you are seeing. And here is a great crested flycatcher that was sent in by Bob. He had a photo of it earlier on in the season. He says, "Great crested flycatchers in my yard today. I really thought the one I spotted earlier in the year was just moving through, but seeing the pair was really exciting. The one looked like it was collecting nesting material, while the other hung out nearby." So great crested flycatcher are a cavity nesting bird, and so they will nest in hollow trees. If you've got a larger nesting box, like a woodpecker-sized nesting box, they might nest in there. So keep an eye out for a great crested flycatcher. That's going to be the largest flycatcher we have here in the area. So that's a great photo sent in by Bob. And here's another flycatcher. This is an eastern Phoebe, and again sent in by Bob. He says, "This cute little gray bird isn't really visually exciting, but he has been a difficult bird to capture with my camera. It is an eastern Phoebe, and it's a flycatcher. I waited until around 6:30 p.m. and hoped they might move in closer to feed, and sure enough, they did. There were two, but one of them kept chasing the other away." So this is another type of flycatcher we have in the area, and this is the Phoebe. And you're more likely to identify them by their call, which sounds like they're saying their name, Phoebe, in a high-pitched kind of tone. Some more photos sent in by Bob. He says, "Apparently the tippity top of my neighbor's tree has become the hotspot for early morning singing. Unfortunately for me, it is a little beyond where my camera lens can zoom for some great close-up shots. Here are a few photos of eastern towhee, northern cardinal, and indigo bunting, all males atop the tree." So here we've got the eastern towhee on the top of the tree singing. There's the cardinal on the same branch, and then the indigo bunting as well. So this is a very popular branch right here, and it makes sense. It's right out in the open. It's a great place for the birds to call and attract a mate. So some really great photos here. And this video was sent in earlier in the season by Matthew S. And this is a mockingbird that is constructing a nest. And we have an update about the mockingbird nest. So I thought I'd start by showing you guys the video here. Here's the mockingbird constructing its nest. And just recently, Matthew's wife, Stacy, sent in these photos. She said, "As a follow-up to the video that my husband, Matt, sent in of the mockingbird building a nest, we thought that maybe the nest was abandoned because we didn't see any activity for a while, but there's actually two young inside. Somehow I got this one pic of the adult bringing in a berry for them." So here you can see there's the adult mockingbird. It's got a bright red berry in its beak, and one of these birds is right up in there trying to get that berry. And then here's the other one down here. And here you can see the two of them a little bit better. So she was able to snap a picture of a couple of the baby mockingbirds. So that was really cool. A lot of the times you see the adult mockingbirds, they're so loud and so showy, but I've never seen a baby mockingbird. So this is a great photo sent in. And some other sightings. Here's the belted kingfisher that Bob had sent in a couple weeks ago. He said he definitely had never seen a belted kingfisher in the yard. "I wouldn't have even seen this guy if it wasn't for the Merlin app sound ID. I had opened the window, heard a new call, and thought, that is close. Sure enough, there it was perched on a branch, drying off after the rain. Sat there for about 30 minutes. Never turned around, though. So you never know just what you'll see when you when you look out your backyard window. I love this picture too of the kingfisher and the chipmunk. That looks like they're having a they're having a staring contest here. On that same tree that Bob had gotten the photos of all of those birds singing, here's some northern flickers that were hanging out on the branch. And Chris M had sent in this photo of the chickadee who's about ready to fledge too out of her nest box. That's been quite popular this season. And the baby birds continue to come in. I know personally I have a ton of baby orioles, young orioles coming to the feeder. The male and female are back as well. And I've never had this many orioles this late in the season, so I'm having a really, really good oriole year. I'm curious if you guys are too. I know we're still selling a lot of jelly here at the store, which makes me think that you guys are still seeing a lot of orioles. They seem to have moved back to feeding to the jelly. A lot of the times when the young are in the nest, the parents will go grab those mealworms and feed the nestlings. And once the nestlings come out and start exploring the world a little bit, they tend to start eating the jelly as well. So we've got that going on. Here's a photo of a juvenile cardinal. I've certainly been seeing some juvenile cardinals in the yard too, making those little chipping calls. Here's a young red-bellied woodpecker that doesn't have the red on the back of its head yet. And here is a juvenile Baltimore oriole sent in by Rich and Yvonne C. And this is when we were having a whole bunch of rain and it was hiding under the weather guard there to stay out of the elements. So there's definitely lots of young orioles out there right now. I know I'm seeing a whole bunch of them, which is really exciting. And this is a fun picture of a hawk in a bird bath. You never know what kind of things you'll see when you put out a bird bath. You get a lot of songbirds. You might get something even bigger like this hawk. And the insects are definitely out and about. The milkweed has been in bloom. There's lots of bees exploring the milkweed. Bob sent in this photo of a honeybee here going to the milkweed. And then monarchs. I saw my first monarch in my backyard yesterday, but I've been seeing them out and around a little bit. So they are here. They're definitely laying their eggs on the milkweed. So now's a good time to look under those leaves and see if you can find any kind of eggs from the monarch butterflies. And here's a picture sent in by Chris of the monarch that was visiting the coneflowers. She says the butterflies love coneflowers. This is a great photo too, because not only can you see the beautiful flower and the butterfly, but you can see its proboscis too, which is kind of unfurled there. So that's a really neat photo. Bob sent in some more photos of monarchs. He said, since you are covering monarch butterflies for Saturday's Facebook Live, I thought I'd share some photos I took today. So this is a neat photo too, because this one looks a little ragged. You can usually tell how the butterfly looks if it's kind of like a newer hatched butterfly, if it's been around a while. This one, if you look at its wings, they look quite beaten up. When we were talking about butterflies, just showed a picture of their wings, zoomed in on their wings, and they're covered with tiny little scales, almost like little powdery scales. And once they start to lose those scales, they'll start to lose their color. And this one looks like it's been around for a while. So this is probably one that's been migrating up north, and it's probably towards the end of its life after laying a bunch of eggs on its migration north. So this is a really neat photo sent in by Bob. He's got lots of monarch butterflies, and here's a great photo showing the monarch right by that big common milkweed that they love to lay their eggs on. So if you've got this plant in your garden, this is a winner to attract the monarch butterfly. Mary Ellen sent in this picture of a crescent butterfly, a pearl crescent butterfly. And here's a photo, not very good photo, that I took of some pearl crescents doing that puddling behavior that you see sometimes when they're landing on the mud and siphoning off some of the nutrients from the mud. So here's another monarch butterfly sent in by Bob, and a morning cloak butterfly. So right now we are really seeing a whole bunch of butterflies. This is a great spangled fritillary butterfly I was able to take a photo of. And this one you can see is feeding on some animal droppings. So they're not always drinking delicately from the flowers. They are decomposers in their own way, and they will feed on some things that aren't quite so delicate. And this is another butterfly that I was able to capture kind of a grainy photo of. This is called an eastern-tailed blue, and this is feeding on some bird droppings. And this is what they look like when their wings are spread out. They're called the eastern-tailed blue because they do have these little tails on the end of their wings. And that's another photo of what they would look like with their wings closed. They're very white when their wings are closed over their body. And then once they open them up, they're this really beautiful blue. And then this is a not so good photo. Again, I took, this is called the common wood nymph. It's a dark butterfly that you can see going through the field kind of erratically. They're kind of an erratic flyer. So lots of different birds out there, lots of different insects. People are getting hummingbirds a little bit more now than they were earlier on in the season. So I'm curious if you guys are getting those. But if you have any questions, absolutely put them in the comments. Sharon saying good morning from Macedon. Good morning, Sharon. Dina says, thank you, Liz, for the update and info. Yes, we will keep you posted about anything new we learn about the disease that is affecting birds. And Ed says, just a quick tip from an old maintenance guy: when disassembling your feeders, take a few close-up photos with your smartphone camera of the critical parts before you begin. When reassembling, you can check your photos to confirm how they fit together. I do this all the time when working on a new project. That is a very good tip. Very, very good idea. Yes, the last thing you want is to think you have everything put back together and you have leftover parts. That's always exciting. Dina says, great idea. Thank you, Ed. And Lisa's saying, I'm filling my grape jelly feeder 3 times a day. The babies are hungry little critters. I believe it. Yeah, during the early spring, I would fill my feeder maybe once every few days. Now it's every day. I do have a couple sparrows that have been eating the jelly, which is kind of strange. So they're helping in their own way, but the Orioles are still definitely still around. Lots of people are getting the Orioles. Vicky's saying, interesting to see the muted colors of the offspring. Yes, the young, the juveniles are usually not as brightly colored right away as their parents are. Ed says, wow, amazing tiger swallowtail photos and video from Virginia. We're lucky to see one at a time in our neighborhood, and they rarely come down from the tree canopy. What an experience to see so many together. Yeah, I agree. I've never seen a group of butterflies that big ever. So that was really cool. Just goes to show you never know what you'll see when you go out for a hike. So it looks like that is everything you guys have for today. And that's everything I have for today. We'll be back on Saturday with another broadcast. And until then, have a great day, everybody.